In this episode, the Straits Times India correspondent Debarshi Dasgupta attends an unusual rock concert, one that's endorsed by the Indian Prime Minister. Hi Debarshi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Xueying. Good to be back. Thank you.
Right, so Debarshi, I heard that you attended a rock out concert in an indoor stadium recently, and I thought we should listen to a snippet of the music from this concert. Well, that was pure exuberance. So tell us about this music, what we are listening to here, and this concert that you went to.
The snatch that you heard was a popular devotional song that's dedicated to Radha, who's the chief consort of the Hindu god Krishna. And obviously, this song that you heard has all modern musical elements. There's dance music to it, set to it, EDM and everything. So this concert that I went to was in Delhi at an indoor stadium. And the performers that day were this group called Backstage Siblings. Now, they are siblings in real life,
Right.
Prachi and Raghav Agarwal. So they're in their 20s. And they would perform at social gatherings, religious gatherings, small-scale religious gatherings in Calcutta where they are from. And they realized, they had the talent. And so they switched to this sort of popular music, which is now bhajan clubbing full-time. So the concert that I went to, the indoor stadium had a capacity of about 3,000 or so, right? Which is like used
That's
by
pretty big, yes.
like big ticket concerts. And like any other concert, you had the same musical instruments that were there on the stage. You had guitars, you had synthesizers, you had drums, and all
And
the
big
other
screen.
the big screen,
front,
the
right?
big LED
Yes.
screen. You had smoke guns, you had all the accoutrements, right? You had flame cannons, everything. So it just felt like it was any other rock or pop concert. But once they started singing, it was very different, right? So they started, and there were these images of Hindu deities on the LED screen. They started with a slow chant, and which set the mood. But gradually it picked up tempo. So their guitar strumming, became more frenetic in pace. The tempo of the music and the songs that they were performing picked up pace. And so gradually, even the audience sort of let themselves loose and enjoyed and had a good time like at any other concert. So for our viewers, bhajan clubbing is essentially this, right? So you imagine devotional songs that have been sung for generations, right? So they are taken, the lyrics are taken, the music is taken, but it's blended with modern elements, as I said, whether it's rock or EDM or disco, or lyrics that are taken and set to Bollywood music, which has been happening for some time now. So it basically makes Hindu devotional form popular by adding elements of popular music and making it more accessible. And the effects were clearly there to see, right? So during these the slow songs, you had people with their hands folded, eyes shut in introspection. And during the fast-paced ones, they were up on the feet, dancing in jubilation. So yeah, it was quite an interesting experience, a good one actually.
Right, and as you noted, this bhajan clubbing is actually quite similar to the rise of Christian gospel music.
Yeah.
Or rather gospel rock during the 1980s and the 1990s in the United States. So why is it that devotional Hindu music, is now blooming across India? And I think that you also wrote that even the Prime Minister Modi is also a fan of this.
Yeah. So, devotional music has always been popular in India,
Yes.
right? But this
performing this way.
yes.
Yes.
So, this particular trend has taken off, I think, because it's essentially a youth-led musical phenomenon that appeals to the youth, right? So, the youth in India today are dealing with stress and challenges, both personal and professional, like in any other country. And who do they turn to in times of such stress, right? So it's faith and spirituality. I must say that this is not representative of the entire spectrum of youth, right? We're talking about Indian Hindu youth, right? So, and even among Indian Hindu youth, there are people who could turn to other things, right? For support, not necessarily faith. So we're talking about a certain subset of Indian Hindu youth who are turning to faith and spirituality. And among them, there are those who are turning to this trend of bhajan clubbing because it's giving them access to spirituality and faith in a format and in a language that they enjoy and understand best, right? So unlike at unlike a top-down sermon at a temple or at any other public event, conventional public event where you have a saint or a guru who's sermonizing, which makes it boring for the youth. Frankly, you have these performers who are singing about God, who's singing about spirituality, who's engaging with them. And that makes it more interactive, so that appeals to them. And I think, as I quote the life coach in my article, right? He said essentially it's meeting three key needs for the youth. So it's offering them relief from stress, a sense of belonging without heavy commitment, and meaning without dogma, right? And all this is in a way that's socially acceptable, right? So if an Indian teenager or someone in early 20s asks their parent saying that I would like to go for this concert, there are few who would say no, don't go, right?
Right.
But if that same kid were to ask, teenager or a young adult would ask their parents, I want to go for a concert, a rock concert, perhaps they wouldn't get the support, right? And I'm talking about again, this is not a representation of the entire Indian families, right? So there'd be certain sections who would have reservations about their children going to concerts. Some wouldn't. But those who would have reservations about their children going to rock and pop concerts would happily allow their children to go to these. So it's also socially acceptable, right? And as I said, it's engaging as well for the youth. And yes, Modi has endorsed it too. He's not been seen in one yet,
right?
But at least not yet, right? He could be even present there at one of these concerts. And he had some praise for it in one of his monthly radio addresses.
What did he say?
So I think he said that he called it a meaningful fusion of devotion, culture, spirituality, and modern sensibilities, and that appeals to the Gen Z crowd. So he praised them, saying that they're carrying forward spirituality and faith in a new way.
Yeah. Right. I'm curious, though, as to why this is happening now, because you talk about stress for young Indians, but I think that stress has always been prevalent for different generations. So why is it that everything has come together at this point in time to make this a phenomenon in India? And actually, I want to go back a bit, too, to ask you, how big is this phenomenon exactly? How widespread is this bhajan clubbing in India? How often do you see these huge concerts, these mega concerts happening across cities in India?
So I'll take up the second part of it, how big this trend is. So essentially, bhajan clubbing is a North Indian Hindi language phenomenon, right? You will have these big ticket concerts in North Indian cities, Delhi and other big cities, Jaipur, for example, or even in the West, right, where there are a lot of Hindi speaking crowd, or in the East where there are basically where Hindi language dominates and is spoken widely. So you have that. It's not as common as in the South or in the East. So it is a certain limited phenomenon, but you will have these big ticket concerts whenever there is the concert season going on, which is when the weather's more pleasant, right? So you have a lot of these concerts. But about why all this has come together, I think Indian youth have always turned to faith and religion, right? I mean, India is a religious country, and faith is a very important component of lives. And we would think that the youth are moving away from spirituality. There's no empirical data to confirm this, but I think youth are not letting go of the religion, right? And they turn to it in times of need and stress. I mean, who hasn't gone to a temple and prayed the day of the exams, right? And you go and pray to your God so that you score well in your exams.
Yes.
Which Indian kid hasn't done that? So with that kind of rooting, it's only natural that you turn to God for your other bigger challenges in life. And as I said, this makes them access God, spirituality in a format that they understand best, that they enjoy, and can meaningfully engage with, unlike other conventional, strict, conservatively shaped religious sermons.
Right. And how are the elders taking to this?
Oh, but great. I think they enjoy it. They're happy that the kids are, turning to faith and spirituality, not something, bad in that sense, quote unquote bad, right? Whether it's drugs or other music. So I met someone in their 60s, right, at the end of the concert that I went to, and she said she was thrilled as well because she had also got bored with the same conventional religious, slow-paced music that she had been used to, the sermonizing, and here, she was there where. She also enjoyed. She enjoyed the music. She enjoyed the performances. Ultimately, backstage siblings, and it's just a representation, right? I mean, they're good performers, so they were able to hold the audience, captivate their attention. So even the old are not immune to this
Right.
trend, and they're enjoying. I
Right.
mean, many of them, there were families, right? So there were
Mm.
sons and daughters in their 20s who had
Mm.
come with the parents in their 50s and 60s, and everyone was having a good time together.
Well, are there those who say that, well, this is just a very superficial interfacing with the faith? If you are doing this, you're going for these concerts, but you're not going for the sermons. How exactly are you absorbing the essence and the teachings and the values of the faith?
Yeah.
Is there this kind of pushback that you're seeing?
Well, there's no pushback as such
Mm.
as yet, because I think the trend is really big, and it's
Mm.
overpowered and dominated any other sort of negative reaction to it, at least now, right? But there are these concerns, and this is something I have in the article, who said that, what is faith and spirituality? It's something that makes you a better person. You introspect on your failings, and you see how you can improve yourself. So do you do that at a bhajan clubbing concert, right? So it's spirituality light for many.
Mm.
You just
Yes.
go there, have a good time,
Right.
in a socially acceptable way,
Mm.
because you are singing and dancing to what is religiously sanctioned music and
Mm.
lyrics. But is leading you to become a good person? I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
so there
suppose
are
it
these
works.
congestions.
Yeah. So I suppose it works insofar as it's a supplement to the core
Yeah,
practices
yeah.
of the faith.
So if it's a window, or if it's a portal into a wider phenomenon of deeper, meaningful religious
Mm.
introspection for Indian
Mm.
youth, I think
Mm-hmm.
we should welcome it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing that you said in the article as well is that this is really part of a broader Hindu religious revival in India in recent years, especially under the governance of the BJP, which has been in power since I think 2014. So tell us a bit more about that, and how the BJP has harnessed Hinduism since it has been in government.
So since 2014, I mean, in fact, when the BJP has come to power, it has,
Yes.
and in fact, even before that, that's one of the reasons why they got into power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how why they have been able to retain the whole so far is how it promotes Hinduism with gusto, right? And since coming into power, it's poured money into religious tourism, Hindu religious tourism, and other social Hindu activities. Most notably, as our viewers would recollect, you had the consecration of the Ayodhya temple that was built after the Supreme Court adjudicated and gave that controversial, disputed patch of land to Hindus. And that temple was consecrated, and that was seen as a culmination of the BJP, endorsing Hinduism. The Modi was there, and he inaugurated the temple. So since then, you've had a boom in the Hindu religious economy, and you have religious tourism that has come up. You have other Hindu religious iconography that now dominates in stores and footpaths. For example, there are T-shirts that have
Mm-hmm.
trendy Hindu religious iconography
Right. Right.
that's sold. It's sold on Amazon. It's sold
Mm.
on streets. Then you know people are going. There are a lot of temples that have come up. I mean, I live in Noida, right?
Mm.
Which is an upcoming town that's adjacent to Delhi, and
Mm.
you have many of these um, apartment complexes, right? So when these apartment complexes came up, you didn't have sanctions places for temples to
Mm.
be built around them, or
Mm.
any other religious uh, institution there. But now, and I think, and I can link it to this, that it's okay to be showcase your Hindu religious identity and do so more openly and vociferously, right? So you have these people who are now going and building temples at these apartment complexes without valid permission, right? So you have this push, and the government turns looks the other way when all this is happening. So there is this element of pushing forward Hindu religious identity, and I think it's linked to this. And the BJP is definitely promoting bhajan clubbing in Delhi, which is the national capital of Delhi, which is governed by the BJP government. You have that government putting money into bhajan clubbing concerts. It's organizing bhajan clubbing concerts at colleges at Delhi University, and more recently, it had one at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, which is one of India's top engineering schools that's produced some of the country's best known tech entrepreneurs. There, they had an event there, which was funded and promoted by the BJP government. And let me just pull up his quote. So this is Kapil Mishra. He's the BJP government's culture minister. After that event, he tweeted out videos and calling it an unparalleled, quote unquote, unparalleled confluence of modernity and spirituality that would strengthen our heritage. So, very much bhajan clubbing is part of the wider tools that the BJP is using to deploy and exploit Hinduism for its political means. And this trend of popular Hindu music, I must say that bhajan clubbing is an extension of a trend that's been going on for a long time. You've had these devotional songs that have been set to Bollywood music and popular energetic music for years now. For example, we have the Kawad Yatra. The Kawad Yatra is this phenomenon during the monsoon season, when you have these young men who go up to the Ganga, the sacred Ganges, and bring that holy water to their villages. And when they do that, increasingly we have seen them use loud speakers. So they march, right? But very often they are on big trucks and in large hordes, right, on these roads, and then there's these huge speakers that are blaring out this energetic music, at times, with lyrics that can be controversial. That's been referred to as Hindutva pop, which is right-wing music that demonizes India's minorities, and this whole phenomenon, right, of the Kawad Yatra as a whole is encouraged by the government. You have the BJP government. I remember that the BJP government in Uttar Pradesh, for example, throws flowers down on these people who are marching from choppers above, right?
Yes.
So there is a very, very, very close relationship with the BJP-ruled government and the ways it uses Hinduism to promote its political power.
So it's not just about politics, it's also about money. It's big business. I think when you wrote that, right?
It is.
Yes, it's valued at 70 billion.
That's correct. So let me just pull up that figure, right?
So
this is a management consulting firm which says that India's religious and spiritual market was valued at about 70 billion, and now it's expected to nearly double to 135 or so by 2034. So yes, there's money in it, right? Which is why also another reason why it's being sustained. People see an economic profit is there to be made.
Right, and it's not going to start at bhajan clubbing. Obviously, I think after this there will be a new thing that will come up that would tap into this market.
Yeah, absolutely,
and this sense of identity too.
Yeah, and you're right, absolutely, because it will evolve and take another shape, right?
Yes.
What will it be? I don't know, right? And what's the future for bhajan clubbing? I'm not sure, because you need really good performers to keep this trend going, right? So there are 2 or 3 at the moment that I can think of, right? Backstage Siblings is one, and then you have Keshavam. There's another band that they do really well. But are we going to see more of these bhajan clubbing stars, really good performers that can keep this trend going? I don't know. Maybe there will be, and this trend will keep going. And if that happens, who knows, right? I mean, we could have all-night Hindu religious raves. We already, we have something called Jagrata in North India, which is a Hindu religious phenomenon. We have all-night religious vigils where you sing devotional songs through the night.
Right.
So, you could very well end up with an all-night Hindu religious rave at some point if this really keeps going strong and takes off even further.
Right, and we might see you there
again.
Oh,
yes, we better report on that.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on the show, Debarshi, and for giving us this fascinating look into the revival of Hindu devotional music in a different form in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wing. Always good to be on the show.
Thank you. Well, that's a wrap for Asia Insider. If you'd like to read our column, we have a link in our podcast show notes. You can also sign up for our Asian Insider newsletter. This episode was produced and edited by Faisal Sani. Thanks for joining us.